Welcome to Soul Spirit Stories, where we bring you heart-touching, emotional, and inspiring tales that remind us of the power of love, sacrifice, and hope. Each story is crafted to connect with your soul and leave behind a message that stays with you long after the video ends. So sit back, listen closely, and let this story touch your heart. There was once a man named Arjun, a simple laborer who lived in a small town. Life had not been kind to him. He had lost his wife during childbirth, leaving him with a tiny baby girl. That day, his world shattered, but when he looked into the innocent eyes of his daughter, he promised himself he would give her the love of both a father and a mother. He named her Meera. Arjun was not educated, nor did he have any special skills. He worked as a daily wage worker, picking up whatever jobs he could find. Construction, loading goods, cleaning streets. His hands were rough, his back always aching, but his spirit never broke because every drop of sweat was for his daughter. Meera grew up with unmatched innocence. She would wait for her father to return from work every evening, standing at the door of their small, broken house. Sometimes barefoot, sometimes with her little doll in hand, she would watch the road eagerly, her small eyes scanning every face, hoping the next person would be her father. Arjun knew his daughter's habit. No matter how tired he was, when he returned home and saw her running towards him with a smile, his fatigue melted away. Her little arms would wrap around his legs, and she would say in her sweet voice, "Papa, I was waiting for you." That sentence became his fuel, his strength, and his reward. But life was not easy. Arjun struggled to make ends meet. Sometimes there wasn't enough food. Sometimes he had no money for her books. He often skipped his own meals to feed Meera, telling her he wasn't hungry. At night, when she slept, he would sit silently staring at her innocent face, whispering promises to her sleeping form. "One day, my princess, I will give you everything. Just wait for me to get stronger." Meera, despite being so small, understood her father's sacrifices. She never demanded toys or fancy clothes. All she wanted was his time, his presence. Sometimes she would sit on the floor, drawing pictures with a broken pencil and torn notebook pages, making little sketches of her father holding her hand. When Arjun saw those drawings, tears would well up in his eyes, but he always turned them into a smile for her. One winter evening, after a long day of work, Arjun was late. The sun had set and the streets grew darker. Meera stood by the door, shivering, waiting for him. Neighbors told her to go inside, but she shook her head, saying, "Papa said he will come. I will wait." Hours passed, and finally Arjun appeared, limping, carrying heavy tools. His clothes were dirty, his face pale, but the moment he saw Meera, his steps quickened. She ran into his arms, and for a moment all the pain of the day vanished. That night, he sat by her bed as she fell asleep and silently cried, wishing life could be kinder to her. Time went on. Meera grew older, but her innocent habit of waiting at the door never changed. She would come back from school, finish her little homework, and sit by the window counting the minutes. Sometimes she would fall asleep waiting, and Arjun would carry her to bed, kissing her forehead, whispering, "Forgive me, my angel, for being late." One day, Meera's school announced a parents' meeting. She excitedly told Arjun, her eyes sparkling, "Papa, you will come, won't you?" Arjun froze for a moment. He wanted to, but he had a job that day. If he skipped, he would lose his daily wage. Looking at her hopeful face, he couldn't break her heart. "Of course, my princess, I will come." The next day, he borrowed clean clothes from a neighbor, combed his hair neatly, and went to school. When he entered the classroom, Meera's eyes lit up like stars. She proudly introduced him to her teacher, saying, "This is my papa. He works very hard." The teacher looked at Arjun with respect, seeing the rough hands and tired eyes, but also the pride of a father who gave everything for his child. That moment filled Arjun's heart with joy. However, struggles only grew harder. Arjun's health started to weaken. The constant labor, lack of proper food, and sleepless nights took a toll. Sometimes he coughed uncontrollably. Sometimes his body trembled with exhaustion. But he never showed his weakness in front of Mira. He always smiled, always said, "Papa is strong." One evening, Mira asked him, "Papa, why do you work so much?" Arjun knelt down, cupped her tiny face in his hands and said softly, "Because your smile is my world. I don't want you to feel that you have no one. I will always be here for you." Her innocent eyes glistened with tears as she hugged him tightly. Years passed, and Mira grew into a bright young girl. She studied hard, determined to make her father proud. While other children had expensive pens and fancy bags, Mira managed with old notebooks and simple clothes, yet she carried herself with dignity. She often said, "My papa gives me everything I need, love, courage, and hope." One turning point came when Arjun lost his job at a construction site. He searched desperately for work, but returned home empty-handed. That night, Mira found him sitting outside, his head buried in his hands. She placed her tiny hand on his shoulder and said, "Papa, don't worry. One day I will work, and I will take care of you." Her words pierced his heart, but also gave him strength. Soon after, he found another job at a factory, working long hours. Every day, Mira still waited at the door. Neighbors often whispered, "Why does that child always wait? Doesn't she know her father is late?" But for Mira, it was never just waiting. It was faith, a connection, a ritual that defined their bond. One rainy evening, Arjun was delayed again. The rain poured heavily, and water flooded the streets. Yet Mira stood with an umbrella watching the road. Hours passed, her little feet numb with cold, but she did not move. Finally, she saw her father, drenched, struggling with his bicycle. She ran, covering him with the umbrella. Arjun looked at her, tears mixing with rain, and whispered, "Why didn't you stay inside, my angel?" She smiled and said, "Because you promised you would come, and I promised I would wait." Their story was one of countless struggles, but endless love. Over time, Arjun's sacrifices bore fruit. Mira, with her father's encouragement, excelled in her studies. She earned a scholarship and dreamed of becoming a doctor. The day she received her scholarship letter, she ran to her father, waving it in excitement. Arjun hugged her tightly, his heart swelling with pride. "You did it, my princess. You will have a future better than mine." But behind his proud smile, his body was failing. The years of labor had broken him. His health grew weaker, and one evening he fainted at work. Mira rushed to his side, holding his hand, refusing to let go. For the first time, their roles had reversed. She became his strength, staying by his side as he recovered slowly. Even then, when he returned home after small jobs, Mira still stood at the door, waiting like she had always done. That innocent wait, that unwavering hope, was not just a child's habit. It was a symbol of their bond, a reminder that no matter how hard life was, love made everything bearable. As years passed, Mira fulfilled her dream. She became a doctor, standing tall in her white coat. On her first day at work, she looked at her father and said, "Papa, you worked all your life for me. Now it's my turn. From today, you don't have to work anymore." Tears rolled down Arjun's cheeks as he looked at his daughter with pride. All the years of sacrifice, pain, hunger, and struggle had led to this moment. His little girl, who once waited for him every evening, had grown strong enough to carry him forward. And even then, when he sat by the window in his old age, he would sometimes see Mira returning home from work. His tired eyes would search for her, and she would always smile, running into his arms, just like when she was little. Their bond remained the same, a father's hard work and a daughter's innocent wait. This story reminds us of the unseen sacrifices parents make, the silent struggles they endure, and the pure love of a child who believes, waits, and never lets go. Thank you for listening to this heart-touching story. If this tale moved your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Soul Spirit Stories for more stories that connect with the soul.